and you'll have it. And then
Okay,
that way,
I'm just going to hopefully share my screen and see what happens. Let's hope it all works. So I'm hoping you can see that screen, and I'm just going to start a presentation and hope that all the tech holds up.
all good. Well, we can see the screen, so that's so far so good.
Okay, so can you see SEO on the screen?
Yes.
Good. Okay, just got something in the way at the moment. You're going to move my mouse and get it out of the way. Okay, so SEO, what's it all about and what's the purpose? Well, the purpose of SEO is to help search engines like Google, Bing, Yahoo, Yandex, etc., deliver relevant content. And the big word there is relevant content. So it's whatever the person's looking for, you've got to deliver relevant content back to them. And obviously that's from your website and delivers to anybody that's looking for it. And it's very important that this information is delivered in the right format for the search engines to actually understand. So what are the search engines looking for? Well, they're looking for four main things, and they look at your website from the back end. So they're not looking at what's visual, they're looking at how the code is written and everything in between. So the four sections of things they look for is they look for technical SEO, off-page SEO, local SEO, which Paul knows all about, and on-page SEO or optimization. And in the 8 minutes, I'm just going to talk about on-page SEO for this example, because the others will take way too long. So what's on-page, or what are Google looking for when we do this? So if you do a search, when you do a search on a Google page, normally it looks something like this, and you'll have various sections of the page. So the top section, number one, is usually paid advertising. So what that means is that the people that get the prominent space on page one are advertisers, and they pay Google ads to get that space. The option two is usually when you do a how-to search on Google, you'll actually get a knowledge box there that Google have decided that somebody's written a good article about it or a good answer, so they'll populate that as well. So if you want to write how-tos on your website, it's a good way of getting more exposure on Google. The third section there is what we call the generic listing section, and that's what SEO is all about. It's getting your business listed in that section. And in here, there are normally 10 listings. So if I just bring up the next slide. Here I've got just 5 because I haven't scrolled down the whole page. But if you look at this, you can see that there are various listings in here, and they're all the free listings. So they don't cost a cent, but they cost work on SEO. And the focus on that is to get your business in that section and in the top 3, because anything below the top 3 just don't get the clicks. Nobody goes to page 2. Nobody clicks on the 3rd or 4th or 5th. So it's the work on SEO is getting your listing up in the top 3. Now, there is another option that Google give us. And again, this is in Paul's domain. This is all about getting your listing for local searches. So in this case, I've done a search for birthday cakes in Coniston. Right now, this happens to be my client, so that's why I did it, because I want to give them a bit of a promo here as well. They're local in Sydney. And you can see that they've nailed the top 3 sections. And these sections is called Google, excuse me, the Google 3-pack. And if you look at any Google local listing, you'll see that above the generic listings. You've also got the map listings on the site, which is very important. And again, this is Paul's domain that gets you listed in these areas in local search, right? So that's what that's about. Now, how do we do that? Well, from an SEO perspective, Google's looking at the back end of your website, and it's looking at the HTML code that's behind the scenes. So it's not looking at what people see, it's looking at what you've written and the other stuff. And it's all based on meta tags and content. So the 2 main meta tags I'll talk about here are the title and description. So it's very important that your web page, not your website, but your web page, each web page on your website has a valid title and a valid description with your keywords in there. So in this case, if we go back to the bakery, you can see here that if I do a search, and this time I just search for birthday cakes in Coniston, and we've actually got the listing right up the top. And the reason for that is that in the title, in the code at the back of the web page, we've actually got the words cake and Coniston. So when we do a search, those two words are in that title. We've also got it in the description. So we've got cakes and birthdays in the description. So it's very important, again, looking for keywords. So you can have multiple pages with different keywords that you build up over time to get your exposure based on what people are searching for. And the next thing, the way that people search for stuff is obviously typing in keywords. Now, if you're not sure what kind of keywords people are looking for, Google actually helps us out on that too. So when you scroll down to the bottom of any search page, you'll actually see a box down the bottom that says what people are searching for. And in this case, we've got 8 search patterns. So you can use any of these search patterns to actually get more exposure. Now, if I was looking at this SEO how-to, and I wanted to build out a site on that, then I would actually write a page on each of those questions that people are looking for and build that out to get exposure in that area. So that's one way of actually doing it. So I suppose, hopefully, I'm not sure how long I've got or whatever, but I think that's just a brief introduction to SEO and how you can get your site listed. There's a lot more to it, obviously at the back end and the technical side, but if your description and your title are not keyword friendly, then you're not going to get any exposure. So I'd encourage everybody to have a look at that, you know, see what their titles on the pages are and if it actually meets the needs of the people looking for their business. So that's me. I'll stop sharing and I can get my mouse into the right position. So any questions? I can't hear anyone.
On mute. I was on mute.
Okay.
All right. Okay, great. Who's got some questions for Fred? Yep, Diane and Nora.
Hi, Fred. That was actually really good. Okay, so you know how you sort of said like you put how-to things on your website. If you don't really do that, will it still help if you do it on like your business page, if you do some sort of an article, or no, it needs to be on your website? No,
business pages, and this is my personal opinion on business pages, right? A business page doesn't get any exposure unless you're paying ads, right? Okay. So unless you're paying Google for ads, a Google business page. Now, I'm not saying that this is different from, sorry, your Google My Business page. Sorry, I actually went off on the wrong tangent there. I was thinking about Facebook business pages, but like with local search, absolutely, putting posts up and doing stuff on that will get you exposure. But the benefit of doing a how-to on your website is that it gets traffic to your website, keeps people on your website, gets you more exposure. So if you built, and it doesn't have, people don't have to see it. It's not for people, it's for Google. So you could have a page, you know, 10 or 15 pages down on your website with lots of how-tos on it, and people never view it, but Google will pick it up and then they'll display it, and then people will go to it and view it, and it's a snowball. So the more people view it, the more Google will lift you up in an exposure site.
Great, thank you.
So Fred, just on that, you could have a YouTube channel linked to your website, right? And post your YouTube clips on how to do it.
Absolutely.
And that would be helpful because Google recognizes YouTube.
Yeah, the one thing that a lot of people don't do on YouTube, and it's probably going a little bit off topic, but one of the first things you should do on YouTube right up the top is putting the link to your website, right?
Yeah.
Not so, and people do it. They'll just put up a YouTube video. They won't write anything in the description. Even if you don't write anything, at least put a link back to your website in the description. And it should be on the first line, because that's what people will see when they actually open it up. And if you've got more content, you can scroll down. Just a hint for YouTube.
Fred, if you were going, we probably need to have a one-to-one. If you were going to work with a business, not mine, but I know of a couple that would like to get their ratings better. If you were to work with them directly over a 3-month period to help them with their ratings, is there a plan that you'd have that you'd work with them? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and it depends on, like, it's all about keyword research, looking at who their audience is, what their ideal client is, you know, whether it's local, whether it's global. So there's a lot of analysis goes into setting up the project beforehand.
I'll call you after this, Fred, if you're available.
Cool. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. It's really great information.
Tim, you've got a question?
Yeah, I just want to say very good presentation there by Fred. Everything he said was absolutely spot on. Very, very well put. Great. It's very important at the top of the website that those items are there. And I just want to add, I had a client the other day. They were using an SEO company, and I did their website, and they asked me to put what they call meta tag keywords at the top of their site. And I questioned it because that's not been used now since probably about 2017. I think they stopped doing it. And that was where you had a line of code at the top of your website, and it starts all with meta tag and it says keywords, and you put keywords in there, and that doesn't work anymore. Google and all the search engines have stopped that in about 2017. So also, if you're using an SEO company, make sure you're using one that knows what they're doing, and Fred knows what he's doing. So yeah.
Yeah, that was a plug for Fred.
Yes, it was. Yeah, that was a plug for Fred, because this other client is using.
I was getting a bit
SEO.
worried there, Tim.
No. I'm just saying, because I got another client who's using another SEO company, and that they were telling her that, oh, you need to put these keywords on the top of your site, and no search engine uses them since 2017. So yeah, so
Tim,
Fred knows what he's talking about.
Tim, tell him that Fred, this company was charging $7,000 a month for the privilege of CEO
They were.
or SEO.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they were. Yep.
That is not the baseline to start with, okay?
I'm happy to charge that. That's okay.
Anyone else got some questions for Fred?
Hey, two quick ones. Fred, who's your, I was Googling Australian bakery companies and pies. What's your client?
Coniston Bakery.
You were showing the name, I just couldn't see it.
Yeah, it's Coniston Bakery in Sydney.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, no, everything Fred said is correct. Yeah. And there's a difference between that local and everything. And so Fred defined very well the differences, and the SEO game can be played, all day long. And if you have someone who knows what they're doing, you're going to come up. That's the big thing. So great
Brenda.
presentation.
Thank you, Paul. Brenda, you've got a question.
Yes, well, I wanted to say I really enjoyed the presentation. Fred, do you have any thoughts? I have one question and then a comment. Do you have any thoughts on cloud-based for your websites, on keeping your website in the cloud as opposed to on other forms of servers?
All websites are in the cloud. So it's just a matter of what the service provider is going to be. So the cloud means that it's a server out on the internet, so every website is in the cloud by default. So I'm not sure where the confusion is.
I was told that cloud-based hosting was a lot faster, and I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
Okay, well, there's a couple of things. There's with speeding up your website, you've got services like Cloudflare that actually work as a caching company. So what they do is they actually speed up access to your site once somebody has visited it for the first time. So Cloudflare will actually deliver content that hasn't changed, and because of their network, it actually gets delivered faster rather than any of the smaller hosting companies who have got a smaller pipe, so to speak. So, but any of the hosting companies will usually now, in most cases, have Cloudflare installed. So they use that, and it's a free service in most cases as well that they add on. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that helps. That helps. And I heard a tip today at a networking event that I was at. If you are anybody who is looking for help with their websites or looking for guidance on these things, it's a great idea to go and look at the person's website. So go and look at Fred's site and see how it's performing. That's going to give you an indication of how he's going to take care of you.
That's not always true, because if you have a look at a motor mechanic and his car, very often it doesn't get served as well. So, and I'm probably
busy fixing someone else's. Builders are great for that. They'll buy a house for their wife and say, "Don't worry, honey, I'll fix that up." And they'll build everyone else's, and then she's still sitting there trying to run off a trestle table in the kitchen. It just doesn't happen till he retires. But thank you, Brenda. Thank you for that tip. Yep, it is. It's still good to do your due diligence and look
100%, yeah.
around. Absolutely. I've got Tim with his hand up again, or he never put it down, and I've got Craig.
No, I was just going to say again with the cloud servers. Fred again's right. Most server companies now offer a Cloudflare service called Railgun, and you can if the company you deal with your website knows what they're doing, they can actually link up what they call Cloudflare Railgun to your website. If you actually pay for a cloud-based server, which some companies do, they're very, very expensive. And to be honest, unless you're a big company, you don't really need it. There you go.
Cool. Thank you very much, Tim. All right, Craig, your turn.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit to that too. So yeah, great presentation there, Fred. One of the other changes that happened, I guess, over the last few years too, was changing or making sure that you have a certificate on your website, so it's HTTPS rather than just the bog standard HTTP. Google made a change in their algorithm a little while ago where I think it's actually compulsory now, but there was certainly at one stage your website got noticed a lot more by Google when it was HTTPS, and it's quite easy these days to have a free certificate on your website, so it's HTTPS rather than just HTTP.
Yeah, I'll second that, Craig. Very important, because you won't get indexed now if it's not HTTPS. They just won't index it. They won't crawl the site. And the other thing that people have to look at now is mobile now has got a 90% rating over desktop. So if your website is not mobile friendly, you won't get indexed effectively on Google.
Yeah, good point.
Excellent. Great. Thank you so much. So we're going to wrap this section up. If you've got any more questions to ask Fred, his contact details are in the chat, so you'll be able to contact him for that. Fred, do you want to stop the recording?